The people are working for FEMA.
This is the first I've heard of that.
There's a lot of controversy. They don't want to say they're working for FEMA. We had 2 hurricanes come through here. I'm so tired of hearing one side that it's only local.
You've got all these multi-millionaire politicians. Neither side made a move to help everybody here. We're on our own.
How long did you have this house for? Did you just build it? Was it brand new?
What? The house I was living in?
That was destroyed?
It's 120 years old. I've only lived here 26 years. I'm not quite 120 yet. So, I mean, no. Anyhow.
Oh my gosh.
So this was my house. That was 120 years old. There was a 2-car garage with a garden tractor and a car. And then this was a 14 by 24 foot shed. All of that went down the river together. Now,
that's all right. We got plenty of them. Just waiting for somebody.
So you had to get out of there quick. How?
No, I was monitoring it since 2 o'clock in the morning, and now I want you to watch this corner.
Okay.
See that house?
Yes.
The roof? You're going to see that house standing right next door.
Oh, that's one I pointed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, they gutted it completely.
Yeah,
wow.
Because about 10 years ago, I had the crawl space encapsulated, which means there was a liner to keep moisture from coming into the house. When the water went through the house, it went through the floorboards, that encapsulation became a swimming pool. So water sat in the bottom of that house for weeks until it evaporated.
Goodness.
So this is what the current looked like. In fact, at times, it would bounce like 10 feet in the air. It was unbelievable. I didn't capture that, but it was never seen anything like this, ever. So you can, well, I don't know if you can tell from the pictures how dug out it was. There was a 4-foot gap between the bank and the edge of the bridge. This is the bridge that's right over there. That's the house that's standing next door that you just saw the water up to the gutters. My house used to be right there. So,
wow.
Yeah.
but like that was my truck stuck between a tree and the guardrail around the corner.
Let's say mini-me?
That's my car. So I'm glad I knew where they were, because insurance wants to retrieve them.
Well, and they would have charged you $50 for not turning your plate in at the...
Not now, they're not.
Oh, they're not? They got off of that, did they?
This is what the end of the road looked like out here.
Oh, man.
So what you're seeing now has all been done in a little over 6 weeks, because this is what it looked like. And then it was nothing but a huge ditch.
Yep.
I mean, there was, look at this.
Yep. And
there's a lot of it still there.
Volunteers and people paying for their own work.
Yeah.
No, that is not true. That is not true.
From what I've seen, that is very true.
No. The roads and everything, that is being paid by FEMA. Those are DOT people that are out here working, being paid by FEMA. You can go ask some of the contractors and they'll tell you they're working for FEMA.
That are actually paving the roads?
That are bringing in the rocks and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can't,
that's not volunteer.
Pave roads with volunteers. I'm saying
Not
the roads that
paving.
have been built up are mostly volunteers that have come in with heavy machinery over the past 8 weeks.
Some of it is, but a lot of them are being paid by FEMA. They're not coming in and not getting paid for fuel and stuff. FEMA's paying fuel. I've had the guys here working.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it could be a
This
mixture.
is the first I've heard of that, honestly.
I know, because there's a lot of controversy. They don't want to say they're working for FEMA. But there's a lot of them, because I've gone around and talked to these guys. I've had them on the property cleaning up the debris and all. Oh, yeah. So at the beginning, the first couple days, I would say even maybe the first week, it would have been some of the local people that had their own equipment and stuff. But then it was FEMA was paying for it. That's what's keeping the economy in the region going, You see anybody with a trailer and a pickup truck that's pulling debris, they're working, they're being paid to do that. That happens every disaster.
No,
I've
been
worked
here for
disasters before.
43 or 44 days now, and I've not met any FEMA workers that were actually doing anything.
They don't wear FEMA t-shirts.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying
The people are working for FEMA.
That are
Well,
on
I'm
machines that are pulling trailers. They're all volunteers that I've talked to.
yeah,
None of them are being paid by FEMA.
yeah.
Maybe it's just the difference between main roads and side roads, or
Yeah,
something like that,
out in
where-
Cattell Creek and Bakersville, any of the no FEMA, none of that. That was all volunteers out there.
Some of it's, I'm not going to say it's not volunteers, but there's a lot of FEMA and they're not getting credit. And that kind of upsets me because there's billions of dollars being spent in here by FEMA and all we're getting is misinformation. And I'm just telling you, if you actually talk to some of the people with the big cats and that kind of stuff, they're being paid by FEMA. And I know working down in Florida in disasters, the guys with the little trailers and the pickup trucks make a lot of money. I know a guy became a millionaire years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah, those are the people that come in and make money off of these things for sure.
But it's locals too. They're working for FEMA. FEMA was paying almost $30 an hour for people to just help take applications. So I'm not saying that was advertised.
Yeah.
That was in
We
print.
saw a post about something like that.
Okay, I'm just saying there are lots of different sides to this. And what I keep hearing is the misinformation that FEMA and the government's not doing anything, and that's not true. So, the government's here, the volunteers are here, and yes, there are thousands of volunteers that have been in here in the past month and a half, thousands of them. And without their help, this would be a much worse situation. But they're working usually like private owners, that kind of stuff. They're going on the property, they're helping on the property. They're not doing the road work and that kind of stuff.
Oh, I mean, they wouldn't legally be allowed to.
They started it here, but they can't continue to do it. But what I'm saying is you can't say, none of it's FEMA because that's not true.
No, not at this point. There's definitely some FEMA.
FEMA was staged in here the first week.
And I've also was part of Katrina, so I know that FEMA was there
Yeah,
the day.
Well, I worked
after the
for 8
storm,
months
and they brought
with
in tens
FEMA.
of thousands of homes.
Well, I worked
trailers.
8 months with 4 different disasters in 2004 as a FEMA inspector. And that's because I understood in new construction. And so, I saw what was happening locally, and also FEMA was in there. They did not wear shirts. If you were inspecting a house, you had a badge, you had a...
Yeah, we have we have some of those that we've stay with at Switzerland Inn.
Yeah,
and they're
I'm
out
just
doing assessments and trying to get
absolutely,
people
yes.
approved,
But that's a whole different thing from doing the debris work and everything else. That is, you have to just give credit where credit is due. And the economy here, if we didn't have FEMA money paying the people, who do you think would be paying gas on this big equipment? Think about that. Local people don't have that money. They don't have the money to pay for the fuel it takes to run big equipment. They can't be running the pickup trucks up and down the road if they're not getting reimbursed somehow. Most of them have been impacted in some way or another that, just trying to reestablish their homes, taking care of their family and everything else. And a lot of them, the only job they're going to have right now is working for FEMA. I'm just saying.
Well, I understand that, but the volunteers that have come in, they're
I'm
not
not
getting money from anyone.
No, I didn't say they were.
Thousands of dollars my own money. She spent thousands of dollars.
I did not say that though.
But the FEMA people that we have spoken to that stay in the same inn we do, they eat lunch at our base camp. They have expressed a lot of frustration because of how many applications they put in for emergency applications, and they're all denied, even though these people need help right now. So like the individual, the individual FEMA worker, that like the average one that we've spoken to, they are very displeased with FEMA themselves, even though they work for them.
I have not heard that, and that's very possible.
So,
There are
but
always different
as far as
sides.
the road goes, don't know.
Well, I think there's a lot of different sides, and so I'm so tired of hearing one side that it's only local help and it's only volunteers, that it needs to be expressed. There are other people here.
Oh, there are.
There are government. It is a huge mix of people that are trying to do work here to get people back on their feet, to be able to live. And what I'm saying is, if you're going to make a statement, it's got to be across the board. It has got to be fair to everybody. The government is in here trying to support people. You have thousands of volunteers that are giving their hours, their money, their time, their equipment. There is no question about it. The locals are in here helping as much as they can, possibly.
Oh, definitely.
Because they also have to work and get their lives back. They just have to. But it is a community of a bunch of different efforts. And I don't want to hear just one side. And I don't mean to sound...
No, it's fine.
I'm so tired of hearing misinformation that, the government's not doing anything, because I don't think that's true.
Well, I think when people say the government isn't doing anything, they're saying it as in the government could have done a lot more and they didn't. That's
Now, let me ask you something. You make that statement. Do you think that there are thousands of full-time FEMA employees? Do you think in 8 states or more where there's a disaster as huge as this is, there are enough warm bodies to go around and do what needs to be done?
Even just housing alone, just from what I saw from Katrina, living there, and what they did here.
Don't compare this to Katrina.
There's more dead in this disaster than this is the deadliest disaster in the history of the U.S.
I understand that, and that's
So
what I'm trying to
it's not
say.
comparing
You
to
have to
Katrina,
have...
It's actually more devastating.
I
than Katrina,
understand that.
and they didn't bring in the kind of support that they brought to Katrina. So that's all I was saying. It wasn't.
They were staged. They thought it was going to go somewhere else, but there are only so many warm bodies. They have to hire people from the outside. They have to train them because they don't know how big a disaster it's going to be until it hits. Nobody expected anything like this. This was the perfect storm. It set over Mount Mitchell. It wiped out the water reserves up there. All that water came down at one time.
Oh, for sure. But but by the next morning, I saw videos of entire towns wiped off of the top of the mountain. So if you're in the government and you see that, if you're the president, if you're the governor, you would send a massive emergency response. Massive. Like not 1,000 soldiers.
Wait a
would,
minute.
There was
See,
volunteers here rescuing people, making posts about how they're the ones. I know for a fact that Operation Airdrop was running 80 to
Operation
$100,000
Hilo
of fuel.
was bringing in,
But these are volunteers.
Yes, I
The
understand
government
that.
should have been here day after the storm, with all the videos of towns being wiped off.
You know what? You know what? It was staged for Florida. They were set up for a disaster in Florida. They staged everything up here. Nobody expected it to be this bad up here.
That's understandable.
And the government, what I'm saying is you are expecting the government where they don't want to be funded. Nobody wants to fund FEMA until there's a disaster. The FEMA... Go back and look at the voting in Congress had just been...
It's not, well, I mean, you keep saying FEMA. There's many other organizations.
Yes,
There's
I
the National
understand
Guard.
that. I
They
understand
did
that.
not
And the
call
National Guard was in here. And so was the 82nd Airborne. They were in Marshall.
They were weeks later. We didn't see the first FEMA personnel till 7 or 8 days.
Do you want to
in.
see the house?
Sure, yeah, of course.
If you came here to have some kind of major debate, then
I wasn't at all. I'm literally just thinking about my experience with what I have
Well, and I'm talking about my experience too.
seen. Well, mine isn't biased in any way.
And you think mine
I
is?
work for FEMA.
And you think,
So
I was an independent contractor, just like the people they're hiring here. I took care of up here, the flood. We had 2 hurricanes come through here. I had to clean up this property because I own both houses before I went down there to help because my parents lived in Florida.
I know you're out here busting your ass. I'm not knocking you in any way.
Oh, you're saying I'm biased in my viewpoint.
Well,
I'm just telling you my experience of having worked as a FEMA contractor. This was my house.
Right. Oh my gosh. Wow. Just ripped off the ground.
Yes. And
That's
that was the
horrible.
2-car garage.
but no, we were literally here just to brought her to the most devastated spot. Not to have a debate or anything.
Yeah.
Not at all.
But I'm glad though, because from what I was seeing on the news, what they're all saying is FEMA is doing nothing, and you just said that they're paying people to help. So it was interesting to hear your perspective.
Well, and the thing is I'm tired of hearing FEMA's not doing anything. That's why if I sound defensive, it is because I'm hearing that same crap all the time. Could it have been better? Every disaster could be better. If we had a crystal ball and knew who was coming in, where it was going, how many people were going to be needed. I remember down when I was working in FEMA, they hired 2,000 people to go in and work in Florida because there were 4 hurricanes that went through. This was 2004. So they hire 2,000 people. I sat next to a guy who didn't even know what sheetrock was. He was going to be making a life-altering decision for people. Well, they turned around and fired 2,000 people because they found out, number one, FBI, when you hire that many people, they cannot clear the background checks fast enough. So they turned around, they fired her. There were 157 of us left in that state doing inspections. So then we hear, oh, well, the government's not doing enough. Well, they tried to hire people. They tried to get warm bodies in there. But what are you going to do? You're going to compromise the types of inspections you're getting or have them done correctly, but there will be a delay. 157 people doing 4 hurricanes, and if you have a house that was hit with 2 hurricanes, as an inspector, you would have to do 2 different reports. You have to break it down, what happened in each disaster. That is time consuming. I'm just saying, I think people are beating up on the government. I don't think it's fair. I'm not a government employee, you know. I think there's a lot of issues with government, and I don't care what political party's in control. I don't care. But I'm going to tell you, at least give credit where credit is due. And there are a lot of people in this region, I know in this county, that are working for FEMA. And it's because if they don't, where are they going to work? A lot of businesses are closed. People have lost their homes. People are trying to rebuild their homes. They don't have the money to eat in restaurants every night. Oh, yeah. They don't have the money to go shopping and doing a lot of things other than necessities. So, you know.
Yeah, if nobody's eating in restaurants, you're not getting any tips. So you've got to find another way to make money.
Well, and that's what it's a vicious cycle. And the thing is yes, there's a overwhelming amount. The first week in here, there were so many volunteers that overwhelmed the entire system here. You couldn't make phone calls, you couldn't text. You know, you couldn't get online and file with FEMA. I had my son, he came up from Myrtle Beach. We drove to Charlotte just to get Wi-Fi, so I could file with FEMA.
I don't agree with what she was saying. She seemed biased towards government agency that she worked for, but she said she's tired of hearing about people, you know, saying that there's no government here, but she also speculated saying that she's worked in these disasters before, and all the trucks with trailers with debris and things like that are personal trucks, that she always just assumes they're getting paid by FEMA. But we are those trucks, and we are not getting paid by anyone. We're volunteers. We've been here for 43 straight days. There is no one we've met from FEMA that is driving a truck and their own personal vehicle and clearing debris or moving anything. So No, I don't agree with what she's saying. I'm not saying the government's not helping at all. They just are not doing what they could have done. That's all. And not only are they not doing what they could have done, there is countless volunteers that have been here, and we've also spoken to FEMA employees who are doing assessments of homes and putting in emergency orders to FEMA, and they're getting denied because people can't get to their homes, their bridges are out, their roads are washed out, and FEMA's denying it, and then their own employees are getting frustrated and mad at them, even though they're getting paid by FEMA. Because these people that are here doing the assessments, they actually want to help. They're trying to help, and they're getting denied. So I don't agree with what she's saying, no. Yeah, there is some government help here, but it is mostly volunteers, and you'll see that today when we go to camps they have heavy machinery, they have tractor trailers loaded down with bulldozers and skid steers, and it's all volunteers. They are not getting paid. And there's these camps all throughout these mountains. So none of us are getting paid. Some of the nonprofits are getting grants and things like that and getting things donated in large quantities, supplies and things, but most everyone you're going to run into here is not a government employee unless they are for the Department of Transportation or a lineman for Duke Power or something like that. But as far as National Guard or FEMA or just the government coming to help with any organizations that they have for disaster relief, you're not going to see hardly anything like that today. You're not going to see it anywhere around here. They came in the first 8 days, we saw a National Guard member, 7 days, and National Guard truck and a FEMA truck, and they were sitting on the side of the road doing nothing. And we passed them hours later, they're doing the same thing. So, at this point, we don't even care about the government not doing anything. We're trying to do as much as we can. We already gave up on the government coming in and helping. So that's just the bottom line. Nobody even really talks about the government anymore. It's a joke at this point between every volunteer we run into. We can meet them for 3 seconds and you mention the government and they just laugh. Every one of them's experienced the same exact thing. So,
why do you think the government's not helping as much as they should?
I mean, I just don't think, I think it had to do with the election at first. They just wanted all national media focused on the election. And I don't care which side you voted for. Neither side helped. So, you've got all these multi-millionaire politicians, some of them billionaires even, and they have access to unlimited money, and neither side made a move to help everybody here. So they're all one entity, and they're all on the same team, and we're on our own. So they don't care.
The people of Asheville and all the surrounding communities have had to come together themselves, to help each other.
Yeah, and the volunteers there's still a lot of volunteers coming in, which is good that there's not as many as there were at first, because a lot of people were just driving around aimlessly with supplies and didn't know where they were going and just kind of getting in the way. But everybody had the same heart and, wanted to help. So you can't get mad about that. At least they tried to help, So then there's also been electricians that have volunteered with us that have been electricians for 30 plus years. And we've spoken to linemen as well. And they said that before the election, haven't spoken to anyone after the election, but they said that they would be working on a grid, about to complete a grid to where they could turn power back on for the entire grid, and then they would be ordered to go to another job. So they weren't allowed to complete grids. And they said, every one of them said they have never experienced that ever, not once. And some of them were 30, 40-year veterans, linemen, that they weren't allowed to complete grids and get the power back on for an entire grid. So I don't know what that has to do with anything, like what that's about, but they were, clearly speculating of why that would be. Everyone's going to speculate, unless you're an idiot. So we definitely heard that a lot as well. So it's not just our point of view. It's every single volunteer we run into, government agents we run into who are actually wanting to help and not being allowed to. National Guard members we've worked with and spoken to, and they just help just because they were tired of sitting around. So it's not the actual individuals that are National Guard members or government officials. Those are good people. They want to help. It's the organizations that we're not giving them orders to help.
Wow, this is like beyond exciting.
Yeah.
I thought, well, maybe a 30-year-old washer.
Well, even the ones that the used ones.
No,
that
the old
Jonathan's
ones
has
are good.
really
The old
nice.
ones are good.
Don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories that I capture across America, showing the trials and tribulations of humankind.